Hey guys, good morning. It is March 13th, 2022. I need to start this video by saying I put it in the description, and if you're watching from Facebook, I put it above this video, but I'm going to say it out loud. This is not a video for children. Remember I said sometimes it gets real and raw and dirty? And that's what's gonna happen. So if you are sensitive to this stuff, if you don't want your children to watch it, I would recommend that they don't. Yeah. So I don't normally do this. I don't normally set this disclosure, but this is about some real adult stuff. Because the Bible is not censored. The Bible shows the good and the righteous, and it shows the wicked and the evil. And this is wicked and evil. So, I'm just saying, full disclosure, it's not appropriate for kids. It's very adult content and that kind of stuff. So, I'm gonna put that out there so that you understand. And that you're not, faced with a bunch of questions that you're not ready to answer. But we are in chapter 19. And I think this is gonna be a trend for a little while, that I'm gonna set these disclosures. Because, like I said, this is real adult content. And I'm not reading from a kid's Bible. I'm reading from an adult Bible, so there's things that kids are not meant to hear, and there's things that are gonna be sensitive to people. There's things that people are gonna be sensitive to. So if this is something that you are sensitive to, I understand, but this is real and raw, and this is the part where it's gonna be a little difficult to see what God is trying to show us, but we're gonna walk through it. So we're beginning chapter 19. We're gonna be in verse 1 through verse 11, and it's Sodom and Gomorrah destroyed. That's the subtitle of this chapter, or the title of this chapter. So I'm gonna start in verse 1, and I'm gonna read all the way through it, and then we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna break it down, because it's important. Like I said, it's dirty. Like, straight up, it's dirty. It's real. But it's important. So, starting in verse 1. That evening, the two angels came to the entrance of the city of Sodom. Lot was sitting there, and when he saw them, he stood up to meet them. Then he welcomed them and bowed with his face to the ground. "My lords," he said, "come to my house to wash your feet and be my guests for the night. You may then get up early in the morning and be on your way again." "Oh no," they replied. "We'll just spend the night out here in the city square." But Lot insisted. So at last they went home with him. Lot prepared a feast for them, complete with fresh bread made without yeast, and they ate. But before they retired for the night, all the men of Sodom, young and old, came from all over the city and surrounded the house. They shouted to Lot, "Where are the men who came to spend the night with you? Bring them out to us so we can have sex with them." So Lot stepped outside to talk to them, shutting the door behind him. "Please, my brothers," he begged, don't do such wicked things. Look, I have 2 virgin daughters. Let me bring them out to you. You can do with them as you wish, but please leave the men alone, for they are my guests and under my protection." "Stand back," they shouted. "This fellow came to town as an outsider, and now he's acting like our judge. will treat you as far worse than those other men. And they lunged towards Lot to break down the door. But the two angels reached out, pulled Lot into the house, and bolted the door. Then they blinded all the men, young and old, who were at the door of the house, so they gave up trying to get inside. What? I read this yesterday. Now, I said in the beginning of this video series that I haven't read through the whole Bible. So I'm reading it along with you, and I'm seeing this stuff, some of this stuff for the first time along with you. So when I read this, I went to, what now? I was not prepared for this. But then God showed me something. God showed me that there's a purpose for this. And I'm gonna break that purpose down for you. Okay? The best I can. Because we need to know this stuff. The first thing that I want to talk about is Lot. Think about way back in the story of Abraham. Lot chose the best land. Selfishly. He took it from Abraham. This was the best land. Lot lived in Sodom. He believed in God, and he tried his best to teach others about God. But he also engaged in the life of Sodom. The pleasures of Sodom, all that stuff. And this is coming to a point where he can't live in both. And Paul talks about this a lot. Paul talks about we cannot live in the world. We can't live for the world. We have to live for God. And right now, Lot is faced with, do I live for Sodom or do I live for God? These two angels came to him, and the men of the city wanted to torture them. Let's just be real. It's called a gangbang. That's just what it's called. That's what they wanted to do to these men, to these angels. Lot tried his best to say, but that's not right, don't be wicked. But Lot still engaged the whole time that he's been in Sodom with what the culture says, what all that says. And it's a lesson for us. It's a lesson that shows us what Paul really does talk about when he says you can't have both. You can't have culture. And what I mean by that is you can't engage in the wickedness of culture and engage in the righteousness of God. Our culture says certain things. Our culture tells us to be a certain way or do a certain thing. We are defined by our culture. And it's not, culture is not a bad thing. We can be proud of our nationality. We can be proud of all that stuff. But first comes first, we're children of God. That's our true identity. That's our true culture. Jesus shows us and God shows us that this life is temporary. Our true home is heaven, not earth. That's where our true home is. So our true identity is children of God. And in this, Lot is faced with, does he go with the culture or does he go with God? So when he's faced with that, he tries to tell all the men that they're making the wrong decision. He says point blank, don't be wicked. Turn around, go home. Don't do this. But Lot is a foreigner. Remember, he came to the lands where they already lived. So now, on the flip side, they're saying, we're gonna do worse to you. Like, you think what we want to do to them is bad? Wait until we get a hold of you. Because you're a foreigner. And you're trying to be our judge. And you're trying to tell us what we can and cannot do. And we're gonna be faced with that. Let's be real. I'm not saying we're gonna be faced with exactly this. But we're gonna be faced with people saying, wait, you want to tell me what to do? You want to say to me what is righteous and what is not? And we've got to know in our heart of hearts, and we've got to know what the truth says. Not what the culture says, but what the truth, the word of God says. And it's gonna be hard sometimes. You're gonna be faced with these moments of, do you go with culture? Do you go with society? Or do you go with God? And this is a theme over and over again. I think about Daniel. Think about Daniel when he is faced with these questions himself. Or David, or so many people in the Bible. And so many people now. There are things going around the world where if you're a Christian, if you say the name of Jesus, you're being prosecuted. You're being thrown in jail. There's underground churches. So this is something that we face today. But the two angels saw what Lot was trying to do. He was trying his best, even though he was really selfish and came to this land. He was trying to save them in a weird, twisted kind of way. I'm not saying Lot offering up his daughters is a good thing. What I'm saying is, he's at least trying. But the angels are the ones who save the day. They're the ones who blind the men, and they go away. And they bolt the door. They protect. God protects us from wickedness, but we have to be bold enough to face it. We have to be bold enough to say that's not right. So yeah, this is dirty. This is, I call it dirty because it's just wrong. Like, let's just talk about that for a second. It's just wrong and weird and just, yeah. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. Like, what is going on here? But remember, God shows us things in contrast. And that's the other thing we've got to see here. God shows us contrast between righteous and wicked for a reason. So, remember Cain and Abel? Cain, Abel, and Seth? Abel and Seth were righteous. Cain was not. So Cain's descendants were dirty. Abel was killed by Cain. We had to see that. We had to know that. Same thing when God flooded the earth. There was wicked and then there was Noah and his family. Same thing. Abram and Lot. Abram righteous. Lot not so much. There's contrast. Because we can't learn things if we don't see both sides of it. If this was just, the righteous, if we skipped over this part and went to the next great part, Yeah, that would probably make us feel more comfortable, because I know, at least for me, this is uncomfortable. And the next couple videos are gonna be uncomfortable. It's gonna make me question, like, what is going on here? That's a thing, and I don't want by any means to ignore that. But I also don't want to ignore this, because this is just as important, because we can see what God truly thinks of wickedness, you know? So, I know it's hard to see, especially in content like this, especially in moments like this. I know it's hard to see. But, I'm going to ask you this question. What is God contrasting in your life? What is God showing you that is wicked? What is God showing you that is righteous? And how can you work with God on going towards the righteous and away from the wicked? So I hope today you see Jesus in all you do. And I hope today you see God's promise all around you. I hope you have a wonderful day. I'll see you tomorrow. Bye.